Hello friends, thanks for clicking on the video. Some of you have expressed an interest in my woodworking and I'm very grateful for that. And I thought it might be fun for you to see just a little bit of what goes into turning a piece of wood. And we'll do that by maybe turning a bottle stopper. So come on and hang with me for the next 10 minutes or so and it may be fun. So here I'm just threading the bottle stopper onto the chuck. The silver part that's connected to is called the chuck. Here I'm adjusting the tool rest so that I can get my tools in the center line of the work. With these type of tools, which are carbide cutters or scrapers, it's very important that those tools be in the middle of the work. And then we'll just get the tool rest as close as we comfortably can to the work, and we kind of have to move this tool rest around quite a bit during the project. So here I'm just going back and forth. This is called a smoother or a finisher that I'm using, the tool. I actually use it to rough these things. You know, in wood turning, we're taking things that are not round and making them round, or we're taking things that are already round and making them a more interesting version of round. You see me raking that tool over the surface of that. If I hear a chatter when I do that, I know that there are flat spots in the wood, so I can check to see if it's round without turning it off. This is a gentler tool, and you can see the shavings that are coming off that are much finer than the other tool. And when I stop this, it'll be already a little bit more defined look on the gray of this wood. By the way, this wood is Bacote, and it's found in Mexico and Central and South America. And it's a beautiful hardwood. As it turns out, I have discovered I have got a real allergy to the sawdust from this wood. It breaks me out like it's poison ivy. I'm squaring up the end of the project there, and you saw that white stuff coming off. That was just wax on the end. The manufacturer, the supplier, coat it in wax so it doesn't dry out too fast. So now I'm ready to start giving this thing some shape and making it look like something other than just a cylinder. This tool is a detailer, and I'm just going to start kind of roughing in a general shape. I don't really have a shape in mind whenever I start. I just kind of dig into it and see what feels good. I might have a rough idea, but that idea will take form throughout the project. I slowed this down to a slow motion so you could see the shavings coming off of that tool. This is actually running about 1500 RPMs on the lathe. So I'm defining a base. I know I want kind of a substantial base, and the base of this is the part that's connected to that chuck. So I've changed tools here. This is another tool. It's one of my favorite tools. I bought it a few years ago on a Black Friday sale. Julie and I were sitting, waiting for a play to start, and I was looking through my email, and I saw a deal on this tool, and I bought it. And it's kind of become one of my go-to, one of my favorites. You can see how it's starting to give a little bit of shape and how this thing's starting to take a little bit more of a form. Again, moving the tool rest around a little bit, just so that it's always close to the stock, and so that I'm, for the most part, able to work perpendicularly to the tool rest. This is the real dramatic look as far as what these tools can do. this finisher or smoother, see how it's really starting to give me a nice concave on that. So that's for concave detailed work. So you can see this wood, the grain is just gorgeous, and it's only going to get more so whenever we put a finish on it later. So that's it for the turning on this. Now we go to sanding, and I had to sand this a lot. I had to kind of start over at one point. You'll see me point out some spots on this, and the spots are where I may have gone to a higher grit a little bit too soon, and I've got to back up a grit to pick up and sand those spots out. We start at 80 grit, then go to 120, then 180, 240, 320, 400, and finally 600. There are those spots that I'm concerned about. So I'll have to back up and go back to 80 or 120 on that. This would also be a good time to let you know, some people ask me where I do my woodworking, and it's a shop. It's called Triumph Workshop, and it's the community outreach of Triumph Financial here in Dallas and TBK Bank. They're located over on the west side of Dallas Love Field Airport. If you're interested in woodworking, it's a great place, and you have 24/7 access to the shop. And besides the woodworking, there's metalworking, 3D printing, innovation lab, electronics lab, laser engraving and cutting. So there's quite a bit there, and they do a lot for the community. This is an abrasive paste that I let get a little bit too warm in my pickup. It's usually a little bit more solid, and I'm putting more on than I need to. But it's beeswax, mineral oil, and an abrasive that goes in there. It's probably equivalent to about 1,000 grit or 1,200 grit. So I'm going to coat that, and you can see what that oil does to the look of the wood. It's already starting to look really pretty. And I'll turn the lathe up, and then just gently go back and forth. And that micro abrasive is really just starting to polish that wood. It's getting out the very small scratches in the wood. And after that, I'll put another finish on the piece. You can already tell that just by the lights that are reflecting from the shop, that's getting a nice polish to it. So this wood finish, it's called a friction polish, and this one is made of walnut oil, denatured alcohol, and shellac. So when the lathe is spinning fast, and I put this friction polish on, I actually apply a little bit of pressure and let the piece heat up, and it opens up the pores, lets the walnut oil penetrate the wood, and then the shellac, the friction will help coat the wood. And the denatured alcohol helps it to evaporate quickly. So this is just several coats of this. Usually 3 or 4 coats is enough to give it a nice glossy finish. You can keep going as long as you want and really build that up. But that Bacote, I'm not going to say it's worth it to me with an allergic reaction, but it is just gorgeous. I know someone who makes duck calls out of Bacote, and they're really works of art. They're beautiful. Okay, now I'm just buffing off some of that with it dry, and then putting a little bit more on, and in between coats, you buff it with a dry cloth. And here in just a second, I'm going to take a cloth and remove this from the chuck. And the way it's screwed onto the chuck is the same way it will screw onto the hardware for the bottle stopper. I'm using that blue paper towel just so I don't get my dirty hands all over that. I'll take a little bit of that finish, and it's kind of off camera there, but just dab a little bit on the bottom. Just that's going to be covered up anyway, but I like to just have a little bit of finish on there. It can soak into the wood. So here is the insert, or I guess the guts, you could call it, to the bottle stopper. It's got some silicone rings to provide an airtight seal. And, it's just a decorative item for whenever you're serving wine. So that's it. That's how we turn a bottle stopper. Thanks for watching.